seemed like it was just a few days ago on the Rod Pedersen Show.
Todd Pinkney, one of our P1s who came to our Seattle Kraken expansion draft watch party the other night, asks if Monty the Squirrel's going to use the lawnmower 4.0 to trim his nuts. I was thinking more, how about that? But
How about that?
it's not an unreasonable question.
No, it is not.
Monty the Squirrel. Can we get that done up by the end of the show? And I'm in favor of your mom sewing the costume this time.
You are?
Yes.
Are you watching?
Paula?
She's probably watching.
What's going on back here? They're all laughing back there. Oh, I'd wonder. Oh.
Because then you paused. And I was like, this in favor of her? What?
I know. I heard them bust out laughing. I'm like, what are you?
And then you sewing the costume, and it's like, just disarmed me. I'm like, okay, we're good. She can sew the costume.
I'm in favor of your mom.
What? Say it. Say it.
Stay tuned, sit back, enjoy. Get ready for the Rod Pedersen Show. Right now,
People aren't very confident that Montreal's got this thing in the bag.
That's right.
We all know. But there's just something going on. Vegas is the better team. We all know that. They check pretty much every box. But I just think Montreal's got God on their side.
how about that?
Why he's not on the Golden Knights side is something we're going to have to talk about later. Well, how else do you explain it?
No, but I got some ideas
How
on
else
that.
do you explain what's going on? Vegas is better. Wait a minute. Maybe because it's Sin City.
This is the Rod Pedersen Show.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the RP Show. We're good. Coming in hot. Oh, man. We're going to try and keep it civil over the next 2 hours, but I feel some punchiness. I feel some electricity in the air. I'm in the Florida studio. Moose is in the Toronto studio. And Moose, before we go any further, you'll see that I'm wearing my brand new spectacles. What the hell is going on? Now, Moose is black. We've got sheep dropping out of the sky. What's going on? Are we on the air? Hello? It's been a long week. It's only Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Okay. It's all good, boys. Well, to be honest, it is a good start to the show. And I know. How you liking us so far, Moose? How was your weekend?
The weekend was good. Weekend was good. It was busy. I was running around all over the place, but watching hockey.
Yep.
We got like record snowfalls here in the GTA, I love it. I think it's awesome. Sun shining, and we won't talk about it, I'm sure, today. But I love my mornings watching curling with the Scotties being on up in Thunder Bay, and it's great. We got hockey at night. It's a great time of the year.
That's a very Canadian update here on Canada's favorite daytime sports talk show. Here's my update. I spoke to my aunt this morning, where it's minus 40 in the Cradle, Saskatchewan, Canada. My aunt, my mom's sister-in-law, I guess. And what should I say? They're having their bowl sale tomorrow. They're having their bowl sale tomorrow, Moose. It's going to be minus 40. And she said, what is it down there? And I said, it's plus 28 Celsius, I'm sorry to say. And I said, I'm very excited because the Beck family actually messaged me, the Beck family, Carter Beck's parents, the star MVP of the Western Canadian Baseball League. And they said, hey, Indiana State's rolling through Florida this week on a road trip. Any interest in going to watch Carter play? And I checked the schedule, and I'm like, yeah, doggy. They are at Florida Gulf Coast University tonight. So we're going over there to watch some baseball right on campus at Florida Gulf Coast University. And Serena's never seen him play. She said last summer when he was taking the WCBL by storm, she's like, I'm sick of this Carter Beck talk. She wants to see him live. And she's a baseball gal if there ever was one. So that's what we're doing tonight. So that's the update of this show. We've got it all covered. Boys, can you hit the quick six show horn, please? And we'll get down to business.
How about that?
Look, I'm dying to talk hockey. I got a football topic that I'd like to talk about more than anything else. But we have breaking news today, and this isn't just affecting Canada, even though it is Canada's team. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. This is breaking news. This is before point one. Vladdy says he and the Blue Jays have not reached a contract extension. The Star Slugger reported to training camp this morning in Dunedin the deadline he set for negotiations. Entering the final year of his deal, the 25-year-old first baseman could become a free agent now this fall once the season is over. Guerrero didn't provide specifics, but said the Blue Jays were far from the dollar figure he seeks. Listen, this is breaking news not only all across Canada, but for baseball fans all over America and indeed around the world. We've all watched Vladdy since he came in 2019. He's averaged, I looked at the numbers, he's averaged, I think, 31 home runs each year. Aside from the COVID-shortened season, he's averaged 100-plus RBIs. Man, this Shatkins thing, Shapiro and Atkins, they just can't get out of their own way. And I can't believe how social media has been flooded just within, boom, wildfire. As soon as Vladdy addressed the media this morning in Dunedin, they're all over it, and people are dumping all over Atkins and Shapiro and the Blue Jays. So I will just say this, because it's the Rod Pedersen show, and I guess I'm a baseball guy now. Give him what he wants. Give him what he wants. Statistically, I don't want to start another holy war here because I already started another one this morning, but he could be on the way to being the greatest Blue Jay of all time. I know that's a very heady title, but you don't let these guys get away. Give him what he wants. What are you hearing, seeing, and thinking with this breaking news today?
Yeah, I've been following this a little bit, and, sometimes the problem is we've all watched Moneyball, and we think that's how it works, and we want to get the most return for every dollar, and that we should want that, for sure. But when it comes to superstars, you're always going to overpay for the superstars. You're going to overpay for them.
Yes.
When it comes to, in hockey, points per dollar spent on a player, or when it comes to football and touchdowns per dollar or runs per dollar, when it comes to baseball, you're going to overpay for the stars. You can always go cheaper and get more return, but you need to keep your stars, and the stars help, win you championships, and you're going to overpay for them. You controlled the situation up until now. Now you don't control the situation. Now, the good news for Jays fans is I see Vladdy come out and say, look, I want to be a Jay. I still want to be a Blue Jay for life. But now you got to compete with 29 other teams. And you got to give me the most money. You got to write the check. He's earned the right to see free agency, but now the Jays got to pay.
Well, and here's the point. Have we come, and trust me, I'm going to get on to Four Nations Face-Off here next, but have we come to a point in society now where the fans aren't upset? Do they understand now this is not Vladdy spurning Toronto? He's going to go to the highest bidder. I don't have a problem with that at all. I don't. But that's a major mindset shift for me. Do Jays fans and Canadian sports fans and sports fans in general, do they see the distinction here? It's business. I'm going to the highest bidder. End of story. Or are they going to be spurned? I don't think they're going to be spurned.
No, I don't think so either, but I'm really curious to see Vladdy's year. What type of a year does he have, knowing that at the end of it is a payday, largely going to be, I think, decided on how his year goes. If he has a great year, that payday is just going to keep going up and up and up and up. If he has a down year, okay, then maybe the number is going to not go quite as high. But yeah, like he's earned the right to see free agency, to get paid. And if he wants to be a Blue Jay, it sounds like all the Jays got to do is write the check. So write the check.
Which they were willing to do for Shohei Ohtani and Juan Soto. So why can't you do it for Vladdy, the face of the franchise? So 7 minutes on the Toronto Blue Jays and Vladdy. Here we are. How did we get to this point? I don't know. Boys, you want to hit the quick six show horn again? See if they're still paying attention there in the Millennium Falcon. I know they are. There we go. So back on track. Canada and the USA will battle for the Four Nations Face-Off Championship on Thursday night in Boston. Canada punched its ticket to the marquee matchup with a 5-3 win over Finland Monday, a must-win regulation time victory. while Sweden beat the U.S. 2-1 Monday night in a meaningless game. Saturday night, which feels like a month ago, the U.S. beat Canada 3-1 in a fight-filled, emotionally charged game on Saturday in Montreal. So let's settle into this, because this is what I wanted to talk about the most today. Save for that football item that's coming up, but we're not going to get to that until later. I said, okay, I'm excited about this Canada-USA game Thursday night, too. I think we all thought they would meet in the final. That is not a surprise to anybody, I don't think. We all knew they were the two best teams going in, Darren. But going in, a lot of people didn't even understand what this tournament was, which is fine because they were paying attention to the Super Bowl and various other things. But then it hit them and like, what is this thing? It's 4 countries. Why is it not Russia? Why is it not the Czechs? It didn't make a lot of sense. But then they started playing the games, and all of a sudden it became, with the booing of the U.S. anthem, an international border war, and then the fights on Saturday night, which I was with Brent in Wellington, Florida, watching it. Shot up on the couch like, what the hell's going on? This looked like WHL 1990s. Drop the puck, drop the gloves. Clean it all up, drop the puck, drop the gloves. I love it. And clearly a lot of people love it too, but even Ray Ferraro, because I'm watching the ABC broadcast, Ray Ferraro was going, nobody expected this. Nobody did. So Canada had to beat Finland Monday, as I mentioned. They did, to set up a rematch on Thursday night. So we can break down a lot of things if you want. Line combinations, why is Jordan Bennington, John Cooper's pet, blah, 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 blah. I'll remind everybody that John Cooper is the greatest coach on the planet. So hold your water there. Okay, I have more thoughts, but what are yours? So we're all excited for a big game Thursday. What's your take?
That was unbelievable, man. Saturday night. I think what was so great about it, and I've already started crafting my column for tomorrow morning on the 4 nations and a few other things. And part of what made it so great is that it, as you say, unexpected. It was unexpected. If that stuff happens every game, that's what kind of lost it for, I think, a lot of people when it came to the fighting. Staged, all the rest. This seemed like pure emotion. And we talked about this over a week ago before this thing started. Yeah, we're into it. We're kind of into it. And then all of a sudden, whoa, we're into it. These teams, like the countries, don't like each other. They're trying to send a message. It became really heated. Now, the final 40 minutes of that game, were really a letdown after the first period. Like, the intensity wasn't the same. Everything wasn't the same in the final 40 minutes as it was in the first. It largely lost a lot of attention. But, man, was it great. And it sets up a rematch in the final. It also moves to the USA. It's now in Boston, which makes that another wrinkle in this whole thing. And it's quickly become fun, but let's not forget this is a replacement for the All-Star break. And I've seen the messages, touting how great hockey is. It's like, oh, the NFL, let's have a flag football game. The NBA, we're going to have whatever this weekend is. Meanwhile, the NHL is going to drop the gloves and have 3 fights in 9 seconds, and we're going to kick the crap out of everybody. That's our All-Star break. So everybody was celebrating hockey, which was nice.
Let me just stop for a second. And from the Peanut Gallery, our viewers, Navy Dawn writes in from Ottawa. He says, love the spectacles, Roddy. Jeff, the Stamps fan, says, you look great in glasses, Rod. I appreciate that, guys. I hope you're being honest. But these are my progressives I was telling you about. I'm still trying to figure them out. Our grandparents had the bifocals. Even our parents had the bifocals. These used to be bifocals. Now they're called progressives. I got my orthopedic shoes. Here we are. Most people move to Florida and get old. I moved to Florida and got old. Joshua Dorr writes in, he's watching here in South Florida. He says, what's going on, Rod? Looks like USA wasn't all out for themselves and played great as a team. Reg Dunlop writes in, he says, I thought I was watching Montreal versus the Quebec Nordique 1985 playoffs. Jay in Winnipeg writes in, he says, apparently the U.S. is getting Hughes to play Thursday. Another from Joshua Dorr says, Quinn Hughes coming in for the U.S. on Thursday. Ted in Red Deer writes in, he says, I'm one of the slow converts to the Four Nations Cup, but I'm all in now. LOL. Right, so let's just walk this back for a second. So I said, this is not the biggest hockey game ever. It's not even in the top 3. It might not even be top 5. So let's chill out. I saw a quote from Jack Eichel either today or from yesterday where the USA forward said this is the biggest game he's ever played in. Sure, But that's Jack Eichel, okay? I'm not trying to denigrate the importance of this game. We're all going to watch it. We're all going to remember where we were. It's all fantastic. But it is not the biggest game of all time, especially when Ted in Red Deer speaks for a lot of people where he's slowly now been converted to the tournament. Most people didn't even know what the hell it was and didn't even pay attention until Super Bowl was over, which is also fine. But I'd like to ask I put this on Facebook this morning on our page. Go follow it, The Rod Pedersen Show on Facebook. I said, this is not the biggest game of all time. The biggest game of all time is the 2010 Winter Olympics men's hockey gold medal game, Canada beating USA in overtime. Sidney Crosby with a golden goal, beating Ryan Miller. To me, biggest game of all time. It touched off a debate and everything. And this is where it gets like a heated debate. And a guy came at me. And this is kind of uncomfortable because there's a lady just down the hall here, beautiful lady named Judy. She does eyelashes here in the office tower, Darren. And she was asking me about Canada versus USA. And she's like, what's going to happen? I said, well, I'm cheering for Canada, but Canadians are mad at me that I moved to Florida. And I'm still cheering for Canada. I've still picked them to win. And this Ian from Moose Jaw said, oh, you love the U.S. You live in the U.S. You don't understand the political implications. This is the biggest game in my lifetime. And I said, you can't separate politics from a hockey game? For pure hockey, Darren, this is not the biggest game of all time. But you may disagree. Ian from Moose Jaw does. How do you feel?
Yeah, I don't think it is. I mean, look, I'm a big believer, though, that whatever gets you into the game and what makes the games great is you need a storyline. If this is just a hockey game to have a hockey game, to create a Four Nations, to create a mini best on best, and it's an all-star break, that's fine, and it's going to be okay. It's always going to be good. But the political climate that's happening with the tariffs and Donald Trump and Justin Trudeau and Canada and U.S. and all the rest, if that's what gets people into the game, and you want to create these narratives that, hey, what happens on the ice on Thursday is going to dictate what happens, at the border war and the trade war, then hey, all the power to you if that's what's going to get you into this game and on the edge of your seat. The fact of the matter is it has nothing to do with what's going to happen politically. We all, I think, deep down really know that, but it gets you into the game, gives you a reason to have a little hate for your opponent. The fights all add to that. So I'm good. But for me, I'm with you. 2010, 02, having the pros back in the Canada winning first time 50 years or whatever it was. That was for me the biggest game, 2010 on home ice. It's a lot of bigger games. Go back to 72 and the Canada Cups, in the 80s and 90s. There's way bigger games. But it's still, hey, if it gets you in, this is still a big game Thursday. It's fun.
Nobody's saying this is not a big game. Nobody's saying it's not. We're all very excited about it. What I'm saying is, in historical perspective, it's not even close to the biggest hockey game of all time. And you just said it. It was a whip together tournament.
The Olympics in February will be bigger.
They didn't expect this. This has worked out great for the Bravo Gary Bettman. Brent from Wellington, Florida, who every day adorns over my shoulder here, that 40-pound sailfish we caught last year. Brent writes in and he says, ESPN had a full 30-minute segment on it this morning with PK Subban. It's on the radar now. LOL. Oh, I was running this morning at LA Fitness. There's 4 big screen TVs all across in front of the treadmill bank. And it's Fox News, CNN, ESPN, Fox Sport. They were all talking Canada, USA hockey. Nobody's saying it's not big. That's all I'm saying. I'm saying, what's the biggest hockey game of all time? We got lots ahead. Vladdy's going to free agency. We're trying to make this a good day. We'll be back.
I think we got our poll question
Plus
tomorrow,
television. Yeah. Streaming live and podcasting wherever the best podcasts are found.
sounds like he knows what he's doing a little bit.
As long as you're entertained. Aren't you entertained?
We're all capable of doing more. More speed, more reps, more commitment to getting every detail perfect. And that's why it's important we never miss a donation appointment. Blood and plasma donors are needed every day in Canada to support thousands of patients that rely on Canada's lifeline. We're asking you to join the Hockey Gives Blood Partners for Life team. Join today by downloading the Give Blood app or book online at blood.ca/HGB.
Canada's premier Junior A Hockey League deserves premier coverage, and at IKS Media, we have you covered for all things SJHL. SJHL Weekly on Monday, a live broadcast across our social media platforms where we interview your favorite players and coaches from across the league and preview the upcoming week. And on Thursday, SJHL Insider, where we look ahead to the weekend that will be and cover everything going on across the league. Catch it all on our social media platforms or on sjhl.ca.
Did you know that you can help save a life? And you can start right now.
Stem cells from male donors increase chances of positive outcomes for patients, yet they only make up 40% of our registry.
Today, there are hundreds of people in Canada searching for their life-saving match.
You can be a patient's best hope. Be a hero by registering with Canadian Blood Services Stem Cell Registry now.
Welcome to the Create Space at IKS Media. Meetings, podcasts, studio. Whether you're here to collaborate or educate, our versatile meeting places, workspaces, and studios await. Your next big idea starts here. Make our space your space. The Create Space at IKS.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Here's how your business can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show. All you have to do is contact us, and we will tell you all about the dynamic and exciting marketing opportunities we have, utilizing a fully integrated 360-degree multi-platform. Imagine your business seen and heard across Canada on Game Plus TV and around the world on the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. You will use one of the most overused expressions in sports. You gotta be kidding me. Get your business involved. Contact the Rod Pedersen Show today.
It may take weeks, months, or even years to get the call to be a stem cell donor. Saving lives takes commitment and dedication, just like being a hockey player. Give hope to patients in Canada. Register online at blood.ca/get swabbed and spread the word amongst your family and friends. Let's please bring the moose in. We do 6 topics here every day, but today we only need 2. We'll sell you the whole seat, but you're only going to need the edge. Vladdy is going to free agency. He and the Blue Jays couldn't get a deal done. Darcy's watching in Grandin Prairie, Alberta. He writes in on the Progressive Insurance text line, 902-518-3033. Darcy says, Blue Jays brass have a strict valuation that they stick to, unfortunately. Moose is right. You have to overpay to keep your stars. Do you think Sergei Bobrovsky in 2021 was worth $10 million a year when the Panthers signed him? No, but they paid it. And he led him to a Stanley Cup. You do not let your stars walk. Rhonda's watching in Swift Current, Darren, the Frontier City, and she writes in, she says, this game isn't even close to being the biggest game. The Olympics are always the biggest. Oh, I agree. But there's also a lot of other series like Summit Series, Canada Cups, World Cups. Hang on. Regarding me being caught in the middle here as a Canadian citizen and a U.S. permanent resident, can I remind everybody I picked Canada to win and still am, and am cheering for Canada. Reg Dunlop writes in and he says, it's okay to be mega, Rod. I'm not mega, although I was driving by the Palm Beach International Airport on the weekend and Trump parks his plane right in the corner. Just like you would park your very expensive car in the parking lot of the Southland Mall parking lots so nobody could ding your doors. You know, the jack wagons that do that. At least they're go park on the other side, right? That's what Trump does with his plane. So everybody can see it when they drive by. Hang on, Darren. I'm sure you have some opinions here. I'm reading from the crowd here. Scott Ford in Toronto writes in. He says, did the Montreal announcer ask fans to respect the anthems? The Boston announcer did. U.S. players responded, nobody wants to have their anthem booed. Yes, the Montreal announcer did. Plus, they put it up on the scoreboard. John writes in. He said, is this Trump against Canada? I don't think so at all. And he says, Game 7 last year was a bigger game. Hallelujah, brother. Because we're sitting here talking about international games being the biggest games of all time. And I was thinking the most watched Game 7 in NHL playoff history was 2013 Boston-Chicago Game 7. That was the most watched on television ever. This one's going to have a lot, though, Thursday night. But if you want, do NHL big games rate in this conversation?
No, I don't think so. I think international play trumps it because, everybody watch. I think we all watch, the hockey fans, the Stanley Cup final, and you get a lot of the casual viewers that are just fans of the sport that watch too, for sure. And when it was the Oilers and Panthers in the Game 7, there was a lot of interest in that too, because that was a little bit of Canada against the USA also. But what you have in international play is you got 40 million Canadians on one side, you got 300 plus million Americans on the other. You're never going to have that big of a fan base of one NHL team on either side. So this trumps that. And, bring in the border wars and all the rest just to the storyline, whether that means anything or not. And you create this hostility between the two countries. And I think it's great for the game of hockey.
Oh, it is. Gary Bettman smiling like a butcher's dog right now. Don't get it twisted. But he didn't plan it either. Okay. This was a lot of luck, and there's a lot of luck in life. Navy Don writes in and he says, when the Soviets invaded Czechoslovakia in 1968, there was a hockey game between the two countries, and there were fights, stick swinging, and major mayhem on the ice. I don't think we're there with the USA. Reg says, JT Miller just wanted to throw punches even if he hit himself in the face. He was throwing. At least he did it. Jason in Red Deer writes, and he says, how big was the Four Nations tournament this past weekend for Canadians? Did anyone else in Canada even know the NBA All-Star weekend was happening? That's how big it is for Canadian. LOL. Oh, I know. And to be honest, I see a lot of Americans were saying they didn't watch any of the NBA All-Star festivities. I know I didn't. They've really ruined it. Now, to the fighting, just if I may, I have written down here, what do we expect Thursday night? Because people are going, is this going to be round 2? Probably not, but I don't think we expected Saturday night there was going to be 3 fights in 9 seconds. And Tkachuk and Brandon Hagel. Hagel doesn't fight. Sam Bennett, Brady Tkachuk. There's a couple of brawlers really right there. Parayko and JT Miller. Hey, it wasn't Bob Probert, Ty Domi, but you know what? I'll take it on a Saturday night. What do you think Bettman was thinking watching from his suite while that was going on? What do you think he was thinking, honestly?
I don't know. On one hand, I could think him sitting there just seeing dollar signs, right, and all the rest. Oh, my God, next year I could sell this TV rights for twice the money. But, and at the same time, I mean, I'm sure, doesn't love the fighting. But when it's spontaneous like that and it breaks out, I think that's fine. If that happens again and again and again, it's a problem. But when it happens once in a while, not a big deal. Same thing with bench clearing brawls in baseball and all the rest. When guys are coming out of the dugout just because, a pitch was up near the eyeballs one time, we're getting a little crazy here. But when the heat rises and boils over and the dugout's clear, that's kind of exciting. It happens. So I think that's just natural human emotion. But yeah, Gary Bettman, it's got to be loving this. And you get Canada and USA back in the final. It's It's going to be nuts.
I put it in my 10 Things Weekend newsletter. You still haven't subscribed, Brent, from Wellington, Florida, so can you get on that? Said I've never really understood and never will unless I work in a league office, which probably not going to happen now, but I don't know how they look at it. If it was up to me, we'd have 10 fights a night of bench clearing brawls. I like that. But apparently that's not okay anymore, right? So how much fighting is okay? You just very eloquently spelled it all out. And now that I've been covering the NHL 4 seasons now here in South Florida, what I've learned is the NHL view on it is it's okay if it happens sporadically. It can't happen regularly. And I thought, who comes up with that? And it's got to be Gary Bettman. Like I was telling you this morning, did I sell you on the Netflix documentary Malice at the Palace? Have I sold you on it? Pistons, Pacers, almost 25 years ago, the brawl in Detroit. They interviewed Daniel Stern, the commissioner of the NBA, who he isn't anymore, but he suspended Ron Artest for the rest of the season. And Jermaine O'Neal for 25 games and Steven Jackson for 30 games. And the crowd, or the media, said to him, Stern sitting at the podium all by himself. It wasn't like Bettman, who had a news conference with 3 other guys last week. Stern was there by himself, and they said, your vote to suspend all these guys for the rest of the season, was it unanimous? Stern goes, yes, 1-0. That's the power they have. I think this must be a Bettman directive, that it's okay if it happens. He can't be upset with what happened the other night, I guess is what I'm trying to get at, to land the plane.
He can't. And I don't think that he is, and I don't think a lot of people are upset. I haven't seen anybody who's upset. I'm not going to say that nobody's upset because I'm sure some people are. But no, there's no reason to be upset because this doesn't happen regularly. The game is in a place where fighting is exciting because it's rare. And I think that's not a bad thing.
Well, I'm here for all of this discussion. Utah Darren writes in, he says, Bettman had the biggest internal grin when those fights broke out. Ted in Red Deer says, I don't think it was a spontaneous fight. They dropped the gloves with 1 second played. That's calculated, in my opinion. Phil writes in, he says, watching the first 9 seconds of that opening period on Saturday was reminiscent to the movie Slapshot. The pre-skate scene with one of the Hanson brothers clotheslining the opposition player. Of course, it's why it caught us all off guard. But I don't know what you saw for coverage, but what Ray Ferraro said, I guess there's a benefit to being between the benches. He said that just before the opening faceoff, Tkachuk yelled at, what's his nuts from the Lightning, Hagel. It's from Saskatoon, you'd think I'd know. We're going. That's how premeditated it was, literally seconds before the opening. I believe that. That's what Ferraro said. I don't think they cooked it up in the afternoon. Do you?
No, I don't. I mean, Tkachuk might have in his own mind, but the two of them didn't. And this is, this isn't, you want to say staged. This isn't like you have enforcers. It's not like you have guys that are only there to fight and they're going to get stapled to the bench. These are your star players that just, want to set the tone, want to get this USA-Canada thing going. And all the memes that went around about the Mighty Ducks, and this is the New Age Bash brothers, right? Fulton Reed and Dean Portman are now Brady and Matthew Tkachuk, and they're high-fiving, and they're brothers. I thought it was so cool, and a generation that I grew up in, and maybe some people younger than me, saw that and loved that. So, I mean, that was cool to see. And then, they had the third Bash brother in the penalty box there. Like, who doesn't love that? That's cool.
Oh, my God. I just opened up the text line, the Progressive Insurance text line, 902-518-3033. It's full, Moose. Did you miss us over the long weekend, everybody? By the way, happy belated President's Day and Family Day to those who observe. I was running this morning, actually, and yesterday at the gym, too, and I was kind of bored with what I was listening to. Dan Patrick took the day off, so they were replaying an old show. Same thing on Florio. No, this is live, everybody. You're not getting this anywhere else, what we're doing here right now. Brian in Hudson's Bay writes in regarding the breaking news today. Vladdy Guerrero is going to go to free agency because the Blue Jays missed the deadline of getting a deal done today. Brian says, certainly not a Shatkins fan, but let's be serious. If Rogers wanted Vladdy signed, he would be signed. They're probably offering him what Rogers says they can offer him. I think this one goes higher than the GM and president. Keep paying your phone and cable bill, though, Rogers subscribers. Story I read this morning was Mr. Rogers was involved in the negotiations and not the guy in the sweater.
How about that?
And they still couldn't get it done. Let me just rip off a few. Vintage Sasko writes in. He says, Reverend Rod, currently mourning the news of PV Mart closing and now the SJHL Notre Dame Hounds, but so looking forward to Canada, USA, and the Beck Bull sale. Canadian hockey and Saski beef is going to get us through these tough times. Signed, Vintage Sasko. Yes, the Notre Dame Hounds, who was announced today, are moving to Warman. That was just a matter of time. And it's not good news for those affected, which there are. And yes, my relations are having their annual bull sale tomorrow. Thank you, Vintage Sasko, for paying attention to that. And Carter Beck, it's a very... That's going to take a time out. Well, it's a very Sask story. But Carter Beck, the MVP of the Western Canadian Baseball League, his dad wrote me, Blair, I used to date his sister. Her name's Carla, the provincial NDP leader. And he said, Carter's making a swing through with Indiana State through Florida if you can get a chance to go watch him. And that's what I'm doing tonight. I'm going to Florida Gulf Coast University to watch him play at Swanson Stadium, right on the campus in Fort Myers, Florida. I told Nate Mensick, the MVP of the Moose Jaw Millers, that story, Darren, of how I used to date Carter Beck's aunt and rolled her dad's car coming home from a grad in Crake. And Nate goes, that's a Nebraska story right there. Because Nate's from Pleasantdale, Nebraska. I said, Nebraska, Sask, not a lot of difference there. I'll get to the rest of your comments when we come back. We're live on Game Plus Television, streaming live and podcasting wherever the best podcasts are found.
The live sports experience is changing. Teams and facilities are under pressure to provide online and in-venue entertainment. IKS Live has the right team to deliver. We provide service across North America and produce the best fan experience, in the seats or streaming to you. IKS Live continues to bring you the best seat in the house. Canada's premier Junior A Hockey League deserves premier coverage, and at IKS Media, we have you covered for all things SJHL. SJHL Weekly on Monday, a live broadcast across our social media platforms where we interview your favorite players and coaches from across the league and preview the upcoming week. And on Thursday, SJHL Insider, where we look ahead to the weekend that will be and cover everything going on across the league. Catch it all on our social media platforms or on sjhl.ca.
Hi, my name's Logan Stankoven.
And I'm Connor Bedard.
We're both Hockey Gives Blood player ambassadors and proud to be blood donors.
There are thousands of patients each year in Canada that rely on a generous stranger to save their life.
Please book an appointment today to donate blood at blood.ca/HGB.
Welcome to the Create Space at IKS Media. Meetings, podcasts, studio. Whether you're here to collaborate or educate, our versatile meeting places, workspaces, and studios await. Your next big idea starts here. Make our space your space. The Create Space at IKS.
From cash spiels to grand slams, club competitions to world championships, there's a lot to keep up with on the pebbled ice. Stay up to date with the Hardline Curling Show, your weekly source for everything curling, with the latest event results, breaking news, interviews with players, executives, and insiders, plus behind-the-scenes access you won't get anywhere else. Follow us on Facebook, X, Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube. Make sure you don't miss a thing.
We're all capable of doing more. More speed, more reps, more commitment to getting every detail perfect. And that's why it's important we never miss a donation appointment. Blood and plasma donors are needed every day in Canada to support thousands of patients that rely on Canada's lifeline. We're asking you to join the Hockey Gives Blood Partners for Life team. Join today by downloading the Give Blood app or book online at blood.ca/HGB.
Here's how your business can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show. All you have to do is contact us, and we will tell you all about the dynamic and exciting marketing opportunities we have, utilizing a fully integrated 360-degree multi-platform. Imagine your business seen and heard across Canada on Game Plus TV and around the world on the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. You will use one of the most overused expressions in sports. You gotta be kidding me. Get your business involved. Contact the Rod Pedersen Show today.
It's really great when we have a lot to talk about, and I'm going to jump right into a heavy gym sports update and then bring the Moose back in for one more segment this hour. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. plans to become a free agent after the season following the passing of his deadline to reach a long-term agreement with the Blue Jays. A four-time All-Star at age 25, Vladdy said during the offseason he would cut off negotiations when he reported for spring training. That was today. You can bring Moose in. He said, quote, "We never got to the point where I felt like I wanted to do the deal." Meanwhile, Yankees slugger Giancarlo Stanton hasn't swung a bat in 3 or 4 weeks and isn't sure whether he'll be ready for opening day because of painful tendinitis in both elbows. Speaking before the team's first full squad workout, Stanton revealed he played in pain for much of last season as he helped the Yankees reach the World Series for the first time since 2009. The sports updates on the RP Show are brought to you by Heavy Gym. Heavy Gym isn't just about lifting weights. It's about lifting your spirit, your strength, and your potential. Step into the gym that's changing lives. Find out more at heavygym.ca. Moose is with us for this segment, and then he'll break, come back next hour. And then Taylor Shire is going to join us to talk about some hockey and some CFL updates. Laverne writes in from Swift Current, says, Canada-USA Saturday night was old-time hockey. It was great. Wilf in Steinbach, Manitoba writes that he's watching on Game Plus. He says, hey, Rod and Moose, not the biggest game. It's not the biggest game. Olympics, if Canada's in the finals. Note, USA started the fights. Canada finished them. Agree or disagree?
Oh, yeah. I thought Canada had the upper hand in the fights. I mean, maybe the Kachuk-Hagel one went, the U.S. way, but Parayko had his way with JT. But all that stuff doesn't really matter. Nobody was really getting beat up in these fights. It was more of a tone setter than anything.
I don't know. I always thought the victor, unless it was a knockout, which everybody can see who won, then if you land on top of the other guy, you win. And didn't Brady Tkachuk land on top of Sam Bennett? I think I have photos of that. I'm just saying. These weren't clear-cut victories in the fights. No. Allie writes in. She says, morning all. She says, morning all from Sherwood Park. Allie and Kev here. We agree with the other viewers. Your glasses look great. She says, we also agree with you about the 2010 gold medal game. That was the best. And Thursday will be exciting, too. Go Canada. Have a great day. Thank you, everybody. If you like these glasses, they'll stay. God knows I paid enough for them at Stanton Optical. Get 2 pairs of glasses for $79. I walked out of there with 1 pair for $500 US.
I know. The fine print lenses cost exponentially more.
Kirk in Toronto writes in, he says, the Americans have a bunch of injuries and could be a factor for Thursday night's game. Oh, and Bennington makes me nervous. Frank is watching in Revelstoke, BC. Hey, Frank the tank. He writes in, he says, there was a clip that showed Tkachuk skating by mouthing, we're going to go, while the players were warming up. Well, then maybe that's what Ferraro was referring to, but either way, it wasn't cooked up in the morning of the game. So it was cooked up in the warmies. Premeditated? That's a gray area. I do have a football point for you, Darren, that, to be honest, this probably would have better served push to Football Friday, but place line, Fort Worth, Texas. Cam Ward says not playing in the second half of Miami's bowl game was a predetermined decision and that he'd do it the same way again. The quarterback could be the first player taken in the NFL draft. He accepted the Davey O'Brien Award last night as the top college quarterback. He hasn't decided if he will throw at the NFL Combine next week. Ward was showered with online criticism suggesting that he quit on the Hurricanes after he didn't play the second half of the Pop-Tarts Bowl in December. They lost to Iowa State after he broke the NCAA Division I record for career touchdown passes. He pulled himself out of the game. I was watching it. I thought he was hurt because the announcers didn't even know what was going on. We talked about this on the South Florida Tribune podcast. Candy, the photographer for the Trib, was on the sidelines. And she said Ward was told by someone, you're coming out of the game. And she goes, it wasn't a coach. It might have been an agent. It was somebody on the sidelines that said, okay, you're coming out. My question to you is, I'm sure you've seen some mock drafts, which mean nothing other than they're fun to talk about. But a lot of mock drafts have him number one. It's a bit of a curveball here. Would you draft a guy? Well, you're the Titans, so it's easy. Your team has the number one pick. Would you take a guy that pulled himself out of a bowl game?
Yeah, I mean, I would. I look at that, and I, at the time, I thought it was premeditated too. Like, I'm like, okay, he decided he was going to play one half of football, and maybe he can give his team a bit of a lead that they can roll into the second half, but he wasn't going to play the second half. And we'd never seen that. But we all wondered because the game was good and they're leading and they're in the game and it's a tight game. How do you leave now at the half? But it was predetermined, all the rest. And I understand because he's going to be a first-round pick, a high first-round pick, maybe the number one pick. And that's a lot at stake, to risk an injury or something that might, create a setback there. That's millions and millions of dollars and all the rest. So I understood it. I don't have any concerns about him. He did say that he's going to be taking notes and taking numbers and, collecting receipts from everybody who passes on him in the draft. I like the competitiveness. Thing is, I don't know right now today who I think the Titans should take number one. I don't have a clear consensus number one. It could be one of the quarterbacks, him or Shedeur. It could be Travis Hunter, or it could be somebody completely different. I honestly don't know where I stand today.
Oh, well, it's funny because see how we could spend a lot of time on this? I saw Cam Ward live here. That was the game against Florida A&M. Henry Burris, quarterback's coach for Florida A&M, invited me to the game, so I went. And I'd heard all the ballyhoo about Cam Ward, transferred here from Oregon. I went with Chris from the Bronx, and he's ready. I'll tell you what, he's definitely CFL ready because he looked to me like a clone of Warren Moon. He would be a very good quarterback for the Tennessee Titans. Would he be the next one? I don't know about that. But I wouldn't be shied off from drafting him, even though he pulled himself from the second half of the game. But I'm not a coach. I guess my point, I would take him because he has the talent. But interestingly enough, I was with a gang on Saturday at Peanut Island here, and I was talking to Elijah, 13-year-old kid, football player, flag football player here. And he goes, Travis Hunter's from here. I said, oh, I'd have to look that up. I didn't know that. I said, if you were picking number one overall, Elijah, who would you take? He goes, I'd take Travis Hunter. But you don't really have a quarterback there either. I think we've established that. I think you need a quarterback.
Yeah.
So, okay, Moose, smoke him if you got him. I'll see you back here in an hour or two.
You bet. See you in a little bit.
Lot of things to get to, folks, when we come right back. Maybe a Scotties update. I'll get to those CFL notes that I wanted to next. We're live on Game Plus Television, streaming live and podcasting wherever the best podcast.
Welcome to the Create Space at IKS Media. Meetings, podcasts, studio. Whether you're here to collaborate or educate, our versatile meeting places, workspaces, and studios await. Your next big idea starts here. Make our space your space. The Create Space at IKS.
Canada's premier Junior A Hockey League deserves premier coverage, and at IKS Media, we have you covered for all things SJHL. SJHL Weekly on Monday, a live broadcast across our social media platforms where we interview your favorite players and coaches from across the league and preview the upcoming week. And on Thursday, SJHL Insider, where we look ahead to the weekend that will be and cover everything going on across the league. Catch it all on our social media platforms or on sjhl.ca.
I'm Bridget Lacquette. I'm a First Nation Olympic silver medalist, and I'm proud to represent Indigenous hockey players across Canada. Each year, hundreds of Canadians need a stem cell transplant from an unrelated donor to save their life. Anyone can have a hard time finding a stem cell match, but for Indigenous peoples, it can be even more difficult because just over 1% of prospective donors on Canada's stem cell registry are of Indigenous backgrounds. Be a hero. Join me in Hockey Gives Blood in helping to make a life-saving difference to those in need. Register today at blood.ca/beahero.
From cash spiels to grand slams, club competitions to world championships, there's a lot to keep up with on the pebbled ice. Stay up to date with the Hardline Curling Show, your weekly source for everything curling, with the latest event results, breaking news, interviews with players, executives, and insiders, plus behind-the-scenes access you won't get anywhere else. Follow us on Facebook, X, Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube. Make sure you don't miss a thing.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Okay, jumping right into it here. We got a lot of things in a short amount of time to get to. Gary in Penticton, BC, watching on Game Plus TV. Gary with 2 R's makes a really good point regarding last Saturday night's USA win over Canada 3-1. He says, who cares if they won the fights? They lost the game. End of story. I forgot. And I'm not being facetious. You're right. Why the hell are we even talking about that? But that's not the game they had to win. Thursday night is. Win or lose what happened on Saturday night, they're still going to have to play USA this week, this Thursday night. That's the game Canada has to win. Hour one brought to you by Culligan Water. Drink clean, live green, filter your water for a healthier tomorrow. Culligan Water of Regina. Visit CulliganRegina.com. Defending champion Rachel Homan looks to remain undefeated today when her rink takes on New Brunswick's Melissa Adams in the afternoon draw at the Scotties Tournament of Hearts in Thunder Bay. Homan sits atop Pool A at 4-0. In Pool B, Nova Scotia's Christina Black, Ontario's Danielle Inglis, and Quebec's Laurice Georges all look to remain atop the standings, currently tied at 3-1. CFL News notes these are the latest signings. The Calgary Stampeders have re-signed American quarterback Logan Bonner. Bonner appeared in 17 regular season games over 2 seasons in Calgary, largely in a backup role. And American defensive lineman Casey Sayles has signed a contract extension with the Hamilton Tiger Cats through 2026. The 29-year-old suited up in 17 games for the Tabbies last year, leading the team with 7 QB sacks. Progressive Insurance text line is open, 902-518-3033. That's 902-518-3033. Let's hear it. Couple things on the... okay. Scott in Vancouver has come in and just pooped on the parade. Scott in Vancouver says, glad the NHL will be back on Saturday. Why? Because you're not enjoying the four nations face-off? It's turned into an international border war, which I feel like we have not yet put to bed any of this talk yet. Like, do you actually believe those fights were related to Trump and the tariffs and the political unrest? Now, there's a guy, I try to be open-minded, believe me, I do, and in the recovery career, I have to be. Guy said the fights were related to the booing of the U.S. anthem, which was related to Trump. So it is related. I'm like, I don't see that, but I won't initially dispel it either. If you haven't signed up for the Rod Pedersen Rod Squad newsletter, weekend newsletter, why haven't you? My 10 Weekend Things column, the award-winning column, has been moved from rodpeterson.com to the newsletter. Pretty simple. It's free. We just ask you to sign up for the newsletter. In that column, I wrote this weekend about this 10% salary cap bump in the Canadian Football League. And because I don't work in those circles, I don't work in hockey ops, I don't work in football ops. I do have a lot of friends, though, that I can pick up the phone and say, what exactly is going on here? Because the GMs are saying they didn't know this 10% bump in the salary cap was coming, and it dropped right in the middle of free agency. Guy that I talked to last week said they knew. They knew it was coming, and any GM that tells you he didn't know it was coming is lying. We know a few that said that. And he says, look at Edmonton's Ed Hervey. He spent like he knew it was coming. Everybody was saying, don't they have a salary cap? Oh, got an extra almost $500,000 to deal with. So I know you don't care if you're being lied to. I know you don't care. But for those that are interested in business and how, you know, the bonuses work and the salary cap and all the rest, I found that quite interesting. Utah Darren writes in and he says, giving Trump way too much credit. More to do with booing the anthem. No, but that's, Utah Darren, that's what I'm saying. The fights were caused by the booing of the anthem. The booing of the anthem was caused by Trump. If you put it all in line, I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm just saying it's, some people have that line of thinking. Rich in Edmonton says, I'd rather you can hear a pin drop silence after the American anthem than booing. Shire in Saskatchewan writes in, he says, will Jaden Daniels stay with the Commanders with a restructure in his contract? I don't know why he wouldn't. Just led him to the playoffs and Rookie of the Year. A lot of comments to get to, and Taylor Shire coming up after this brief pause. We'll be right back.
We're all capable of doing more. More speed, more reps, more commitment to getting every detail perfect. And that's why it's important we never miss a donation appointment. Blood and plasma donors are needed every day in Canada to support thousands of patients that rely on Canada's lifeline. We're asking you to join the Hockey Gives Blood Partners for Life team. Join today by downloading the Give Blood app or book online at blood.ca/HGB.
Welcome to the Create Space at IKS Media. Meetings, podcasts, studio. Whether you're here to collaborate or educate, our versatile meeting places, workspaces, and studios await. Your next big idea starts here. Make our space your space. The Create Space at IKS.
IKS Game Day wishes to congratulate the city of Estevan and Affinity Place on their brand new center ice display. This state-of-the-art score clock features 5 LED faces with full motion graphics, scoring integration, and our new Halo mounting system. If it's time for an upgrade, let us show you how to deliver the best fan experience. You can find us at iksgameday.com.
The live sports experience is changing. Teams and facilities are under pressure to provide online and in-venue entertainment. IKS Live has the right team to deliver. We provide service across North America and produce the best fan experience, in the seats or streaming to you. IKS Live continues to bring you the best seat in the house.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Right now,
people aren't very confident that Montreal's got this thing in the bag.
That's right.
We all know, but there's just something going on. Vegas is the better team. We all know that. They check pretty much every box. But I just think Montreal's got God on their side.
How about that?
Why he's not on the Golden Knights side is something we're going to have to talk about later. Well, how else do you explain it?
No, but I got some ideas.
How else do you explain what's going on? Vegas is better. Wait a minute. Maybe because it's Sin City.
This is the Rod Pedersen Show.
Oh, man, we got heat. We got action as we come into a brand new week. Episode number 1436 of the RP Show is at hand. It's Canada's favorite daytime sports talk show, airing in 32 U.S. states as well on Game Plus Television Plus streaming. Let's bring the Moose in and we'll jump right into it. Boys, can you hit the quick six show horn and we'll just re-up and tell everybody who's joined us today what we've been talking about? Please, and thank you. There's breaking news today. Vladimir Guerrero says he and the Blue Jays have not reached a contract extension. The Star Slugger reported to training camp in Dunedin this morning, and today was the deadline he set for negotiations. They didn't get a new deal. So entering the final year of his deal, the 25-year-old will become a free agent once this season is over. Vladdy didn't provide specifics, but said the Blue Jays were far from the dollar figure he seeks. That's one thing we've been talking about. Moose and I agree. Give him what he wants. We'll get more into that. 2, Canada, USA, meeting Thursday night in the Four Nations Face-Off Championship game. We've been debating that, and Darren, we haven't even got into the actual nuts and bolts of it, like who should be playing with who? Why are they sticking with Bennington? There's breaking news on this today. Quinn Hughes has been called up as an injury replacement for Team USA, so those injury things they were dealing with going to be helped by the stud young defenseman from the Vancouver Canucks. And then the fun wrinkle was Cam Ward saying he pulled himself from the Pop-Tarts Bowl at halftime because he was told to do it. His team went on to lose in the last minute. I was watching the game. Would you draft a guy like that? And I'm saying, yes, I would. 10, 20 years ago? No. But that's the way it is now. And he's got the talent. And it's undeniable. And Darren, hey, before we went to the break in the first segment last hour, you said, now we know what the poll question is tomorrow. But I didn't ask you what it is or what you were thinking. Do you remember what you were going to say?
Yeah. Well, we were talking about the greatest games of all time. What's the greatest game?
Right.
This Thursday's final, the 2010 final, the 02 final, the Summit Series. I don't know. We got options for this poll question that we could do tomorrow. What's the biggest game Canada's ever played in? What's Canada's biggest game? Is it Thursday?
No.
One of these other games?
No. What's the biggest hockey game ever? That's what I actually have written in my notes. Because we are a cross-border show. We're an international show.
Yeah.
Biggest hockey game ever. What is it? Darren, I had to defer to Darren. He said NHL games don't count. And I got to agree with you. Game 7, Saskatoon Blades, Regina Pats, 1999. That doesn't count? No? It was to me. Tim Tisdale versus Brad McCrimmon? No, you know what? Pats.
No, I think it'd be great.
Game 7, Saddle Dome? What?
Yeah, no, like those games would be great, Ted. But I was thinking about the NHL, and I'm like, okay, well, which one NHL game do I add to the poll? What did we add to the poll? And like, we got to craft we only got 4 options on the poll. What are we going to put on the poll tomorrow?
1987 Stanley Cup Final, Game 7, Flyers-Oilers. As the year you were born. What do you remember of that game, Moose? You were a couple of months old.
Yeah, a lot of bright lights.
Moose was telling me he doesn't remember being circumcised, but he can remember he wasn't able to walk for a year.
Boom.
We're the boys on that. Glenn Erickson writes in from Medicine Hat, which, by the way, there we go. Ryan says so many buttons. It's all good. Glenn is my columnist at rodpeterson.com. He writes the 10 WHL Things column. Glenn, I expect to have your thoughts on Canada-USA, the historical nature of this big game on Thursday night and all the rest. Oh, the comments are going off like crazy. Okay. Glenn says Canadians continue to be easily distracted. It's not just Canadians, Glenn. That's just people. And Darren and I are as bad as anybody else. Can we talk actual hockey for a second?
Mm-hmm.
Serena and I had a discussion, not an argument yesterday, about who Cooper has playing with who. I won't say she can speak for herself. I am surprised that he stuck with Jordan Binnington, but if you just look at this, because everybody looks through a pinhole, a keyhole, look at it big picture. Why is John Cooper coaching Canada, the global hockey superpower? Because he's from Canada and he's the greatest coach in the game. And what makes coaches successful nowadays more than ever? Sticking with your people. Same thing goes with leaders, political leaders, business leaders, leaders of a family, you name it. Stick with your people. Support them. Believe in them. That's why John Cooper's sticking with Binnington and the various guys that he is. He's changing his lines through the games. But any coach is going to do that. I don't have any beef with the job he's done at all. You?
No, I don't either. Not at all. And I think, we knew at the beginning, and he said from the outset, Jordan Binnington's going to be the guy. And in a short tournament like this, it's a little over a week. He didn't want to have a rotation of goalies. He wanted a guy, to be comfortable, and let the other 2 guys in Aiden Hill and Sam Montembeault support him. And that's how it's gone. And he's not the reason Canada lost to the USA. When you only score 1 goal, goaltending's never the issue. He only let in 2, right? And an empty net goal. Not the issue. They're good goals. Maybe won a couple of these back against Finland, a lot closer than it needed to be, and maybe against the Swedes, but not really. I mean, anybody you put in net's going to be fine. Now, Connor Hellebuck was great against Canada, and he's going to continue to be great. It worked out for the U.S. They had the ideal situation. Play the first 2 games, clinch a spot into the final, then play Jake Ottinger in the 3rd game and go back to Hellebuck for the final. That's what you want to draw up. But Canada needed to win that 3rd game. If they had already clinched, he would have done the same thing and put Aiden Hill in net against the Finns. But he didn't have that situation or that luxury. So he's going with his guy. I'll never question John Cooper right now.
No, me either. And if it was Brent from Wellington, Florida that I had this discussion with, I apologize for not remembering. But somebody said to me in the last week Why aren't they playing Swayman? Why aren't they playing Ottinger? Why aren't they rotating these guys? I'm like, it's not a novice tournament. It's an NHL tournament, and they want to win it. It's not about being fair. It's not about fair play. This is different. Rich in Edmonton writes in, regarding the biggest NHL game of all time, that is very subjective. We would never come to an agreement on that, but Rich says, Glenn Anderson with the game winner in 1987. Outstanding. That, for me, would be the biggest NHL game of all time. But it's, Flames Lightning fans would say, 4 Game 7. It depends. We all have our allegiances, as Darren pointed out last hour. When it comes to a country, all Canadians feel one way about Team Canada, right? Not about our 7 NHL teams. C. Lightning writes in and says, for us old guys, the 1972 Canada-Russia final game is the ultimate. To be perfectly honest with you, for a guy that I was not alive then, the 72 Summit Series, the fact that it's still talked about today probably was the biggest game of all time. You know what I mean? Just wasn't in our lifetime. I'm not obtuse enough, like Ian from Moose Jaw, to say this game Thursday night's the biggest game of all time, and never even thinking about there was a life that went on before he came down the tunnel. You know what I mean, Moose? Like, I can appreciate there was hockey went on before I was born.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, that 72 series, they talk about it. We've watched the documentaries. Heck, we've watched part of those games and the whole deal. I mean, they're huge, massive. This has a little bit of that feel because of the political stuff that's going on. But I can't imagine Canada against the Soviets when the world was so much bigger, the world was then than it is now. Now the world's so small. We know everybody in other countries all over the world. It was a foreign world, I imagine, back then, Russia and all the rest. It still is pretty foreign right now. But 72 should be right up there.
There's an argument to be said that this might be the most expensive ticket for a hockey game. International game, I guess, because there were Stanley Cup final tickets going for $9,000 last year. These are going for $1,200. Brent from Wellington, Florida, screenshotted me the ticket prices. Had he tried to buy tickets on Saturday, it was like $400. So they've skyrocketed, they've tripled. But again, that's business. Jeff, the Stamps fan, says, Connor Hellebuck better enjoy Thursday. Team USA will be Dustin Wolf's moving forward. That from a Flames fan, all I'll say is, let's just worry about this week. On the job of coaching done by John Cooper, Rich in Edmonton writes in, he says, Cooper has been great. The line combinations yesterday seem to be outstanding. Yeah. Some of these comments, Darren, are just driving me a little bonkers. What else were we talking about today? Any other thoughts on anything?
Well, and the line combos are funny. Everybody's all over Mitch Marner, and they have every right to. He wasn't great. He moved down to the fourth line. I think he played 12 minutes, and we haven't seen Mitch Marner really be a big game player yet, and tons of opportunity. But after the first game, John Cooper was raving about Mitch Marner and how great he is and all the little things he does. He is a very talented player. He skates well. He sees the game really well. His stick skills are really unbelievable, among the best in the world. But sometimes, it's tough when you got to play really tough we call it big boy hockey. He hasn't been able to step up, and he was playing with McDavid. It didn't work. They moved Braden Point in there, and that worked really well. I'll be curious to see what role Mitch Marner plays, and opportunities he gets. He'll still play in the power play. If they go to overtime and it's 3-on-3, which I don't even know, maybe you do, or our viewers do, what the overtime rules are for the final, if they'll play 5-on-5 or 3-on-3. But he'll get his opportunities there too. I'm curious to see how he responds to the pressure.
Well, it's interesting because they say they use an NHL rule book, yet they haven't had a 10-minute overtime 3-on-3 in the NHL ever. But now they are in this tournament. So honestly, I don't know. My guess is it'll come down to a shootout like the Nagano Olympics and other international play. Maybe they got the ice rented for 10 o'clock. Let's be honest. This is the biggest reason why they went to these endings. Ron in Calgary writes in on the 403, from the 403. He says, we will see how deep this game goes if the Americans boo the Canadian anthem on Thursday. Hold on to your hats, boys. If I was an American, I don't think I would want to stir that pot. Proof that I'm right. If Ray Ferraro, he reported that Tkachuk was saying we're going. He said that to Brandon Hagel in the warm-up. We're going. In the warm-up, that was before the U.S. anthem being booed. Because there are people saying those fights were instigated by the U.S. anthem being booed. Tkachuk lined that fight up before the anthem. I rest my case. For God's sake, you can call me Matlock. Right?
How about that?
Yeah, it had nothing to do with the anthem. And I heard there was some booing of the Canadian anthem, too, in Boston now. But whatever. I mean, that's the game. And no, it wasn't a response to the booing. I mean, maybe that's part of it. There's just been the tension's been rising because of that, because of the booing, because of the trade wars, because of Canada versus USA, all the rest. It's just fun. Fun.
Well, it's just I got sucked down into a social media discussion with a guy. Now, the thing is, I know the guy personally, and he's a good guy, but we can't spend much time together because we just don't see things the same way. And if you go to our Facebook page, you'll see it under the thread on what's the biggest hockey game of all time. He's like, this is the biggest game of his lifetime. So it's only in his world. Canada, USA. And he said this was caused by the political climate. And I'm like, no, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. I mean, can you not separate hockey and sports from politics? Can you not do that? And then why did I get into that? Well, I told you why. Things had been too quiet in my life. I needed to get back to being me, stirring things up a little bit. Because I've made a career of that. Laverne writes in from Swift Current. Hey, Laverne, where's Shirley? Says, I think it was relevant. Because I think it was relevant, the booing and the fighting. But Tkachuk brothers are so passionate, and apples fall close to the tree. Just look at their dad, Keith. He was no angel. Canada should be, I won't say embarrassed, but offended that the Americans came in and beat them at their own game, and don't say they didn't. That's the thing I'll leave you with. Do you agree with that? The Americans came in and played Canadian hockey and beat them on Saturday night. What's going to happen Thursday?
Yeah, curious, to know what's going to happen. Like Canada, played largely, well, I don't know, largely a perimeter game, trying to get pucks to the net at the end in that third period when they were down a goal and trying to come back. And yeah, they controlled the offensive play, but the Americans, I would say, they grinded out a win. They were physical. They out-hit Canada. They grinded defensively. They protected the middle of the ice. Things that we're typically known for, Canada being tough and willing to put your body on the line and grind out a win. The Americans did all those things in that win. Now, Canada kept bringing pressure and, controlled play in the third period down a goal. We'll see what happens on Thursday. I don't really know what's going to happen because now you see the Americans willing and successfully playing a strong defensive game. Canada has to get to the middle of the ice. They didn't do that against the USA.
Thank you, Gary in Winnipeg, who writes in. He says, regular NHL Stanley Cup overtime rules apply. 20-minute periods, 5-on-5, as per the NHL channel. Thank you, Gary. This could go all night, but I don't expect it will. Thanks, Moose. Have a great afternoon.
You bet. Yeah.
Award-winning writer Taylor Shire joins us from the Leader Post next to talk hockey, football, a little baseball, because he can do it all. We're live here on Game Plus Television across Canada and 32 U.S. states. We're also streaming live and podcasting wherever the best podcasts are.
Sports experience is changing. Teams and facilities are under pressure to provide online and in-venue entertainment. IKS Live has the right team to deliver. We provide service across North America and produce the best fan experience, in the seats or streaming to you. IKS Live continues to bring you the best seat in the house.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
We're all capable of doing more. More speed, more reps, more commitment to getting every detail perfect. And that's why it's important we never miss a donation appointment. Blood and plasma donors are needed every day in Canada to support thousands of patients that rely on Canada's lifeline. We're asking you to join the Hockey Gives Blood Partners for Life team. Join today by downloading the Give Blood app or book online at blood.ca/HGB.
From cash spiels to Grand Slams, club competitions to World Championships, there's a lot to keep up with on the pebbled ice. Stay up to date with the Hardline Curling Show, your weekly source for everything curling, with the latest event results, breaking news, interviews with players, executives, and insiders, plus behind-the-scenes access you won't get anywhere else. Follow us on Facebook, X, Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube. Make sure you don't miss a thing.
Canada's premier Junior A Hockey League deserves premier coverage, and at IKS Media, we have you covered for all things SJHL. SJHL Weekly on Monday, a live broadcast across our social media platforms where we interview your favorite players and coaches from across the league and preview the upcoming week. And on Thursday, SJHL Insider, where we look ahead to the weekend that will be and cover everything going on across the league. Catch it all on our social media platforms or on sjhl.ca.
Sounds like he knows what he's doing a little bit.
As long as you're entertained. Aren't you entertained?
Here's how your business can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show. All you have to do is contact us, and we will tell you all about the dynamic and exciting marketing opportunities we have, utilizing a fully integrated 360-degree multi-platform. Imagine your business seen and heard across Canada on Game Plus TV and around the world on the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. You will use one of the most overused expressions in sports. You gotta be kidding me. Get your business involved. Contact the Rod Pedersen Show today.
Clear water, clear choice. Hour 2 of the program brought to you by Culligan Water. Filter out the bad and taste the good. You can order yours at Culligan Water of Regina. Visit their website at culliganregina.com. A good old sports chat is what we're going to do with Taylor Shire here, writer from the Regina Leader Post. He can cover a lot of things, and he's the beat writer for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. But hey, so much going on in sports, even in the CFL. But with hockey, I think you're hockey first. Am I right in saying you're hockey number one? We don't have sound. Hang on, bud. I can't hear him. Is that me or is that him? Hey, guys. Well, we don't. So hang on, Taylor. They're working on it. By the way, while they do, I don't know what you guys got to do. But the poll question is brought to you by EMJ Marketing. Transform your audience with powerful presentations from EMJ Marketing's elite speakers. Check out their website for more information at emjmarketing.com. And the poll question today is, who will win Thursday night's Four Nations Face-Off final? This shouldn't be surprising. 90% of the viewers of our show are Canadian. 67% are saying Canada will win. Okay, sorry, Taylor. Yeah. Okay, he's resetting, and they're bringing him in, and there you go. Okay, Taylor, sorry about that. Yeah, we got you, bro. Listen, we'll dispense with the hockey number one thing. God didn't want you to answer that, clearly. Who do you think will win Thursday night, though? What do you think of this championship final Four Nations face-off?
Yeah, it's going to be a close game. I'm going to say Canada probably has the upper edge based on a few different things that the USA is dealing with. I mean, if Quinn Hughes plays, maybe that changes things. But with McAvoy out, he was one of their best players in the last game, and the Tkachuk brothers dealing with whatever they're dealing with. And if Canada then gets Makar back, I think sort of the edge goes to them. But it's really a pick'em game. And I was saying right off the top, I liked your discussion with Dupes about, surrounding the fights and how that all was established. And it had nothing to do with the anthems. It had everything to do with, well, a few battles that the Tkachuk brothers wanted to settle, off the ice sort of stuff, right? Hagel and Matthew Tkachuk obviously had a relationship, in the NHL schedule. But I think a lot of it to do with how well Canada played in their opening game against Sweden. They came out hot. That first 10 minutes was some of the best 10 minutes of hockey that we've ever seen in the last decade. And I think the USA wanted to not let Canada get off to that start. So how do you do that? Well, you take them out of the game and take any sort of edge that you can without getting on the scoreboard. And I think that's why those fights started is to sort of take any edge away from Canada in that opening 10 minutes so they didn't start like that against the USA.
You're a young father. I assume you were home on a Saturday night watching the game. Am I right in saying that, Saturday night?
You're right. Yep.
Okay. What did you think? Because my jaw was on the floor. What did you think when it was going on?
It was honestly when that first fight happened, I was like, are they going to go? Okay, they're going to go. And it was a really good fight. And then I said, okay, now the game's going to, we're going to settle in. Because to me, it's been 9 years since we've seen the best on the best. And I think that game against Sweden to start was just watching Crosby and McKinnon and McDavid and all these guys play together, I think was sort of a feat in itself. And then all of a sudden, okay, now they're going to play against the USA. This is the test. And obviously we all wanted to see it in Thursday's final again. But to have fights in that game when we saw this unbelievable sort of hockey spectacle, I'll call it hockey, like on ice, and then all of a sudden we get these fights. Nothing I expected. The second fight happened, that was even more surprising, and then the third fight wasn't surprising because you could see Miller going after Parayko on the face-off earlier. He wanted to go him almost 15 seconds earlier. So it was one of those buckle up, here we go. And honestly, the game itself, it just sort of it obviously settled down after the fights, and I think the USA just played too good defensively. They shut down everything Canada had. So in terms of ultimate hockey game, I don't think it was the best game we've ever seen, right? I would arguably say that Sweden game was more entertaining. But to have those fireworks off the start of that Canada-USA game was something else.
You talk about that game and USA winning 3-1 with an empty netter. You are, again, you're hockey first. I know that. I don't need you to confirm it for me. But there's this adage that even a major junior goalie, let alone an NHL goalie, should not be beaten on the first shot. And Binnington was twice in that game. So those two goals that beat him were on the first shot. That's not a good thing, but John Cooper's coming back for him Thursday night, and I hope and expect he will be rewarded for that. Brett in Saskatoon's watching on Game Plus TV. He writes in and he says, I thought that the Canadians maybe took their foot off the pedal and sat on their lead Monday, almost to disastrous results. But clearly, it's human nature of that to happen, especially when you get up 4-0. But you are, Taylor, an ordained, certified Hockey Canada official. How do refs feel about a game like that? Let's just put yourself in the skates of those officials. Because what I hear is these high-level games, even in football, there wasn't that many penalties in the Super Bowl. You guys don't want to call penalties in high-level games. Is that true?
Yeah, well, obviously, I think even you could say that from an official, from a player, from a fan. You want the players to decide the outcome of the game. You don't want to have the officials determine the outcome of a game. And that would be from an official standpoint, from a fan standpoint, from a players, from a coaches. So yes, officials don't want to be part of the outcome. And I think we saw that a little bit where they almost let a few penalties go. I guess in the entire tournament, you saw, for example, that McDavid, he gets tripped pretty clearly. He gets tripped going over the blue line. And I know a lot of Oiler fans watching will say, oh, McDavid doesn't draw a lot of calls because you could call a penalty against, or, against him every shift, right? Because he does so many things to opposing players that catch them in tricky spots. So, yeah, to answer your question, officials don't want to be part of the outcome. That doesn't mean they're not going to call penalties when they're warranted. And I think, obviously, the officiating hasn't been an issue in this tournament, and I certainly didn't expect it to be. But it's going to be interesting to see who sort of goes over the edge and goes over the line on Thursday and how tightly they call it, or did they just let them play? And is it going to be all-out war, or are they going to clamp down right away? So that's going to be the first sort of 5 minutes will really set the tone, and I think there'll be a conversation with the officials prior to the game to say, hey, we need to. Well, it's the direction of the NHL. It's either, hey, we're going to let them play, or we're going to clamp down right away. Maybe call a penalty or two if somebody goes, on the edge or over the line just a little bit, and then the game will settle down. If they let the first few go, then it's going to be might be all out chaos.
Mayhem, as John Cooper called Saturday night. Folks, the Progressive Insurance text line is packed with messages, 902-518-3033. I'll get to your messages once Taylor adjourns because we got a long way to go and a short time to get there. I just need your take as an all-around sportsman that you are. Put today's news that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. plans to become a free agent after the season following the passing of his deadline to reach a long-term deal with the Blue Jays. Four-time All-Star at age 25 told the media in Dunedin this morning, quote, "We never got to the point where I felt like I wanted to do the deal." What do you think about that?
Yeah, and right, they used the word close. Obviously not close enough, and I didn't hear the exact numbers, but I think this sort of like you see how much the Blue Jays are offering Soto and Ohtani in recent years to try to come to Toronto, and now they're not willing to shell out top dollar for, I would say, a guy who's considered among the league's best hitters when he's on. He hasn't necessarily been amazing over the last couple of seasons. So that, to me, he's obviously not Ohtani Soto, right? But where is he on the pecking order, and who else is out there to throw top dollar at? So if they don't spend all this money on Guerrero, then who are they going to spend money on? And are they going to be a winning team if they move on from him, or are those dollars just going to not be spent, right? So that's an interesting one that they didn't want to shell out top dollar and say, here, you're the face of our team, come back, we'll spend all this money on you and make you happy and want you to be here and also build a winning team around you, because that's also what Guerrero said, is he wants to win. And I know every player says that, and ultimately the paycheck comes before the championship, and every professional player, whether they tell you that or not, I think that's what they believe. There are a few exceptions, obviously, but he's obviously didn't feel it was a fair deal or a fair contract that was proposed. So I don't see him being a Blue Jay, because he said Toronto can still compete in free agency, but at this point, there's going to be somebody else not only, bidding or offering a higher contract, but allowing him to come to a better team that gives him that chance to win.
Just business, as they say. We'll see how it unfolds. Speaking of that, you've been covering CFL free agency so well. 3 Down Nation, as you probably saw, has the Riders rated number 1 in the power rankings coming out of free agency. I'm wondering what they're smoking, but maybe you agree. What do you think?
Yeah, not to drink the green Kool-Aid, but this Rider team has not gotten. They've gotten better at every position, or every hole that they might have had, or every. They've improved across the board. They have not declined in any positional group, in any facet of the game. They've arguably gotten a lot better at some positions. So if you look across the CFL, I don't think you can say that about any other team, although there's so many interesting situations. If Nathan Rourke is back to his old self in BC, well, he's probably a better quarterback overall to lead that team than Vernon Adams last year, who's now in Calgary. And right, can he sort of help the Stampeders to a resurgent season? Obviously, there's a lot going on in Edmonton and all the guys that they've signed, and Winnipeg to me is obviously trending downwards. They're kind of coming off their I would say their run. This might be the end of their run, but they're still the defending West Division champs, so you still have to beat them. So I would say the Riders, yeah, I would put them at the favorites of the West right now, but really I think it's wide open. you can say that every year, but I think Winnipeg is going to trend down. Saskatchewan, based on what they did last year and how they improved this offseason, or how they kept that continuity and added a few pieces to the puzzle, I would say it would be hard for them not to be considered in, if not first, then second in the West.
Well, so that's number one power rankings wise. I guess you feel that they are the team that won free agency then? I mean, Edmonton was rock bottom, so they had a long ways to go up. Would you say the Riders won free agency or another team?
If you look at free agency as in the free agent market starting on February 11th when all players are free agents, no, I don't think Saskatchewan won. I think Edmonton potentially would be they recruited the best players from elsewhere. But I think if you look back to November, the last, day one of the offseason, I think Saskatchewan has one free agency based on what they've been able to do from the end of the season until we sit here today. I think Saskatchewan has put themselves in the best position by having that continuity. Like I said, improving across the board, re-signing Harris, getting a veteran backup quarterback, signing a really good short yardage quarterback, and having all of those pieces together. And I think drastically improving their offensive line. Obviously, they have to stay healthy, but I think that's where it starts. If they can protect Harris, this is going to be a really good team. And the defensive line is obviously, I would say it's improved. It's interesting because they added Mike Rose and Shane Ray and lost a couple of guys in Brian Cox and Miles Brown, but they got Micah Johnson, Malik Carney back. So I think this team is really good defensively up front. They were last year, and I think they will be again this year, and I think that'll be a big reason for their success.
While I have you being one of the biggest Hab fans I know, and that's saying a lot because I know a lot of hardcore Hab fans, where are you on the Bleu Blanc Rouge? Because they're going from winning 7 in a row to losing 7 of 8 going into the break, and Martin St. Louis says they needed the break. What do you think is going to happen with this team this season?
Yeah, I would. If you would have asked me a month ago, I would, start booking my playoff tickets and planning a trip because they were sort of trending in the right direction. Everything was going well for them. They were playing well, and then they're just not there yet, right? And they played so well in January, and we could see all that. We could see all the young players kind of improving game in and game out, and then sort of had a blip in the radar. Caden Gooley got injured, and then all of a sudden they're sort of crashing back down into reality. So they're not a contender yet. And I think, again, they have the pieces in place that they can be a contender. Nothing drastic needs to happen. It'll be interesting to see what they do at the trade deadline because they are sort of falling out of contention. So do they become sellers? Probably get some assets for next year and the year after, and then maybe take another run at it next year. That's what I think they'll do. Because at this point, it would be almost a miracle for them to get into the playoffs. You would need a lot of help from other teams to fall off.
At least they're going in the right direction. Taylor, wonderful chat. Great seeing you, my friend. Thanks for the time.
All right, take care.
Later Post writer Taylor Shire. Like I said, we can fill the show with your comments when we come back. We'll go back and forth because it's just you and me here live on Game Plus TV, streaming live and podcasting wherever the best podcasts are.
Sounds like he knows what he's doing a little bit.
As long as you're entertained. Aren't you entertained?
We're all capable of doing more. More speed, more reps, more commitment to getting every detail perfect. And that's why it's important we never miss a donation appointment. Blood and plasma donors are needed every day in Canada to support thousands of patients that rely on Canada's lifeline. We're asking you to join the Hockey Gives Blood Partners for Life team. Join today by downloading the Give Blood app or book online at blood.ca/HGB.
Did you know that you can help save a life? And you can start right now.
Stem cells from male donors increase chances of positive outcomes for patients, yet they only make up 40% of our registry.
Today, there are hundreds of people in Canada searching for their life-saving match.
You can be a patient's best hope. Be a hero by registering with Canadian Blood Services Stem Cell Registry now.
Canada's premier Junior A Hockey League deserves premier coverage, and at IKS Media, we have you covered for all things SJHL. SJHL Weekly on Monday, a live broadcast across our social media platforms where we interview your favorite players and coaches from across the league and preview the upcoming week. And on Thursday, SJHL Insider, where we look ahead to the weekend that will be and cover everything going on across the league. Catch it all on our social media platforms or on sjhl.ca.
Welcome to the Create Space at IKS Media. Meetings, podcasts, studio. Whether you're here to collaborate or educate, our versatile meeting places, workspaces, and studios await. Your next big idea starts here. Make our space your space. The Create Space at IKS.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Here's how your business can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show. All you have to do is contact us, and we will tell you all about the dynamic and exciting marketing opportunities we have, utilizing a fully integrated 360-degree multi-platform. Imagine your business seen and heard across Canada on Game Plus TV and around the world on the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. You will use one of the most overused expressions in sports. You gotta be kidding me. Get your business involved. Contact the Rod Pedersen Show today.
It's always a whole lot of fun talking sports, isn't it? Especially in the daytime. By the way, sports fans, join the Rod Squad newsletter today. Stay ahead of the game with exclusive insights, updates, contests, and exclusive content delivered straight to your inbox. Best of all, it's free. Sign up today at rodpeterson.com. There's a tab across the top of the page. The award-winning 10 Things column has been moved to the newsletter. We don't ask for much. What I'm asking you for is to sign up for that. This is just so much fun. Debating the day's sports topics is exactly how we hoped this show would go 1,436 episodes ago. It's certainly changed a lot since then, but the core has not. Vince in Manitoba is watching on streaming, talking about the Canada-USA game on Thursday night, and Vince says, the fact that we are debating whether this is a big game tells me it is. Don't get it twisted, to quote Chris Jones. Nobody's saying it's not a big game. What I'm saying is it's not even top 3. It might not even be top 5 biggest hockey games of all time. And I got sucked down into that argument on social media about that, and I'm mad at myself because I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be the arguing guy. I have my opinion. They have theirs. This isn't the biggest game of all time. Stop. Shire writes in and he says, I wonder if the fans will go at it in the stands. The fists will fly. That's what we hope doesn't happen. That's the one thing. I enjoy the hockey on the ice, the fighting on the ice a lot. And while I used to enjoy the fighting in the stands from a pure entertainment basis, I've matured enough to realize, yeah, we can't have that. Now, we talked about Saturday night in the Canada-USA game. Puck drops, fight. Clean it up, puck drops, fight. Puck drops, 7 seconds go, fight. That was 90s WHL. Don't tell me if you were at those games, you didn't enjoy, like I did, being in the old Crush Can in Moose Jaw, where the rink was like the Saddle Dome. And we used to say, that's great because the fans are so ugly on the other side of the rink, we don't want to see them anyways. But then the fights would start. The fights would start on the ice, and then the fights would happen in the crowd, and you would see bodies just tumbling down the stairs and the bleachers. And the Moose Jaw Civic Center was so damn much entertaining. And then you go out in the parking lot, and they'd still be fighting. And of course, but the problem is, somebody always took it too far. Somebody always vandalized my vehicle because I very rarely took the bus. As the broadcaster, I didn't take the bus to those games. I drove myself, and of course, I had the marked vehicle, and they would vandalize it, and I never figured out to take somebody else's car. Well, I thought that I was safe. Tim from Vegas writes in, because I'm saying that the 2010 Olympics gold medal men's hockey game was the biggest hockey game of all time. That's what I'm saying. Tim writes in from Vegas. He says, 2010 was still the era where Canada was kind of supposed to win. Now it's anybody's game. USA especially has caught up, and that makes this a bigger deal to me. You're saying that as a USA fan, I assume, because you're from Vegas or in Vegas? Just clarifying. I don't want to go down this road because it's very uncomfortable for me. If you don't know by now, I'll tell you. There's nothing, and I mean nothing, USA hockey loves better than beating Canada. Nothing in the world. And they've been doing it a lot lately. They've won 3 of the last 4 World Juniors. And if they win this one on Thursday, I don't even want to think about it. It's a little like the Florida Panthers getting up 3-0 on the Oilers in the Stanley Cup final and then losing the next 3, so it's 3-3, going to Game 7 here in Sunrise, and Paul Maurice being asked after the game, what did you think would happen if you'd lost? He's like, I won't even entertain it. I'm not even going to think about the USA winning and the fallout that will ensue. I don't even want to think about it. Tim from Vegas writes in and he says, clarifying, I'm from Prince Albert, and I'm scared to death of the USA beating Canada. See, you get it. It's not the fact that it's just a hockey game. It's what it means. Because if the USA is dominating World Juniors, does everybody understand the juniors feeds into the pros? So if they're dominating at the junior level, that means they're going to dominate at the pro level, and probably for a long time. You know, where I realized and took my cue that it was time, just for me personally, to get out of junior hockey was in the 2000s when I saw the type of players coming up in terms of the entitlement and the attitude and the lack of respect and all of that. I said, these were Canadian kids. And I thought, you know what? This is the way it's going to be in the pros, and I don't want to be around it. Biggest reason why I left on a full-time basis in 2010. When it starts in junior, it's like an embryo. Colin in Ottawa writes in and says, some idiot from the rectangle tweeted, I assume you're referring to Saskatchewan. You would have to be. Some idiot from we don't have idiots in Saskatchewan, so I'm confused. He says, some idiot from the rectangle tweeted that we have never needed the help of American military. 80,000 liked this tweet. Clearly, they don't understand the concept of deterrence. Utah Darren writes that he says, the Americans are afraid of losing to Canada in basketball as well. Yeah, get used to it. Holy smokes. We got a lot going on here. Progressive Insurance text line 902-518-3033. Blair in Calgary writes in. He says, hey, Rod, Tom Wilson would sure look good on Canada. Yeah, but have a little foresight. Who thought this was going to turn into a bloodbath? Nobody. And I mean nobody. And Tom Wilson's won a Stanley Cup with Washington, but I know what you're saying. He's basically an enforcer now. Who thought we were going to need one? And when I say we, that's Canada. That's not going to change for me. Or it's not like America's skating around USA with a bunch of goons. The Tkachuk brothers, you can't handle them with what we got? Skate circles around them. That's interesting because in the 70s, when the Philadelphia Flyers brought in the goon hockey, took a long time for teams, particularly Montreal, to figure that out. They're just wailing the hell out of everybody. That's not what's going on here. Gary writes in and says, this is nothing but a political showdown. Leave the politics out of hockey and get rid of the anthems. I really wonder if we're coming to that day. I hope we are. I don't think there's any need to have them. Just play them at the end of games who won in international tournaments. Can we agree on that? And Bill in Brantford, Ontario writes in, he says, they were booing the USA national anthem during NHL games before the Four Nations Cup even started. Tkachuk boys were just at the White House. What other reason to boo the anthem? Never have before. Trump wants to make Canada a state. Bill in Brantford. It is unfortunate. The gentleman just said leave politics out of hockey. Bill in Brantford brings it right back in. You bring the Stanley Cup champions to the White House. What? Don't blame me that we're talking about this and the fans get upset that it was been politicized. They did it. So it's confusing. What I know is we're all going to be watching. We'll be right back with Overtime, one final segment. What a day it's been here. We're live on Game Plus TV, streaming live and podcasting wherever the best podcasts are found.
From cash spiels to grand slams, club competitions to world championships, there's a lot to keep up with on the pebbled ice. Stay up to date with the Hardline Curling Show, your weekly source for everything curling, with the latest event results, breaking news, interviews with players, executives, and insiders, plus behind-the-scenes access you won't get anywhere else. Follow us on Facebook, X, Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube. Make sure you don't miss a thing.
We're all capable of doing more. More speed, more reps, more commitment to getting every detail perfect. And that's why it's important we never miss a donation appointment. Blood and plasma donors are needed every day in Canada to support thousands of patients that rely on Canada's lifeline. We're asking you to join the Hockey Gives Blood Partners for Life team. Join today by downloading the Give Blood app or book online at blood.ca/HGB.
Sounds like he knows what he's doing a little bit.
As long as you're entertained. Aren't you entertained?
Welcome to the Create Space at IKS Media. Meetings, podcasts, studio. Whether you're here to collaborate or educate, our versatile meeting places, workspaces, and studios await. Your next big idea starts here. Make our space your space. The Create Space at IKS.
Hi, my name's Logan Stankoven.
And I'm Connor Bedard.
We're both Hockey Gives Blood player ambassadors and proud to be blood donors.
There are thousands of patients each year in Canada that rely on a generous stranger to save their life.
Please book an appointment today to donate blood at blood.ca/HGB.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Here's how your business can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show. All you have to do is contact us, and we will tell you all about the dynamic and exciting marketing opportunities we have, utilizing a fully integrated 360-degree multi-platform. Imagine your business seen and heard across Canada on Game Plus TV and around the world on the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. You will use one of the most overused expressions in sports. You gotta be kidding me. Get your business involved. Contact the Rod Pedersen Show today.
It's one of those shows where I don't think there's any doubt we could go 3 hours, but we won't. Overtime is brought to you by our friends at Overtime Hockey Lanes in Calgary. Are you looking for the perfect place to perfect your shot? Then look no further than Overtime Hockey Lanes. With state-of-the-art shooting lanes, top-notch equipment, it's the ultimate training destination for players of all ages and skill levels. Whether you're preparing for the big game or just want to have some fun, achieve your hockey goals at Overtime Hockey Lanes in Calgary. OvertimeHL.ca is their website. You'll see I put my spectacles back on. They're new to me, so I'm not in the mental habit of putting them on. But I've been instructed to wear them all the time. They're called progressives, and if you don't know what those are, consider yourselves lucky. Progressive Insurance text line 902-518-3033. It's on fire. Troy writes in, he is in Swift Current, Sask, and he says, just tuning in, did you cover the Notre Dame Hounds moving to Warman? End of an era. Signed, Troy in the Tractor. What are you doing in the Tractor right now, Troy? Moving snow, obviously. Yeah, we covered it earlier. This is the Junior A hockey team, the 1988 Centennial Cup champions, starring Rod Brindamore, Scott Pellerin, Curtis Joseph. That's what we all think about when we think about the Notre Dame Junior A Hounds. They're moving to Warman, where they have the fantastic arena there. What do they call it, Clark? The Legends Arena? Legends Center? Great Junior A barn. Legends Center. I just feel sorry for the people affected. One, Jamie Neugebauer, the voice of the Hounds, who I've already been in touch with. The only constant in life is change. So it sucks, but what are we going to say? Financially, it wasn't going to go down. They don't draw flies. Can you believe they used to pack that barn? I was there. Maybe you were too, Troy. It's just the way of the game now in amateur sports and junior hockey. And listen, oh my God, you dropped that on me now. We sit here and I've been following fairly closely. It just popped up on my Twitter feed the other day about Penticton, BC applying to be in the Western Hockey League. And the original tweet said it was happening. The expansion fees had been paid and the governors had voted in favor of Penticton, longtime BCHL team, moving into the dub. I'll be honest, the junior versus college wars that are going on are somewhat confusing for me to follow, and that's a guy that's been in it my whole life. So for Joe Fan, it's got to be hella confusing. But I would say, if you're Penticton or any other market that sees no benefit of being a junior A market anymore, and you have the means to be in major junior, why wouldn't you? Because we hear Penticton's going to become the 23rd team, and there's going to be more to follow. So it's interesting to follow. And Notre Dame couldn't support a junior A team anymore. Warman can. My God, I broadcasted the SJHL draft a couple of years ago, and I think we did the math. 68% of the kids drafted in the SJ draft were from Saskatoon. Warman is Saskatoon. To be honest, this makes all kinds of sense. Last word on it. If Notre Dame Hounds fans are upset about this, maybe you should have gone to the game. Yeah, Gary in Winnipeg writes in and he says, regarding Thursday night's USA-Canada Four Nations Face-Off Championship, he says, I wonder if the players will shake hands at the end of Thursday's game. Of course they will. They're not mad at each other. You think because Brandon Hagel and Matthew Tkachuk fought, or Sam Bennett and Brady Tkachuk, that they hate each other? They don't. They're hockey players. Why would this be any different than any other series-ending game or tournament-ending game? Of course they'll shake hands. But you're a bright guy, Gary. I appreciate the question, but come on, let's not get this out of control. Laverne in Swifty writes in regarding what's the biggest hockey game ever played. He says 1987 Canada Cup, great game. Fun fact about the 87 Canadian team, by the time the final roster was set, future Hall of Famers Steve Yzerman, Cam Neely, Al McInnes, Patrick Waugh, Scott Stevens, and Dino Ciccarelli were cut. Oh, yeah. And it still took them until the third and deciding game in the third period to beat Russia. What was interesting about that, of course, was that it was a summer tournament. And my whole life was wrapped up. I guess I'd have been 14. My whole life was wrapped up in that tournament. And, to be honest, now this is a 55-plus age demo, so probably shouldn't surprise me or anybody else that most of the viewers are saying 72 Summit Series Game 8 was the biggest hockey game ever played. And to be honest, you've kind of got me convinced. But I will admit I'm old, but I wasn't born yet at that time. As my aunt pointed out to me today, my aunt told me I'm old.
Oh, no.
My aunt told me today that I'm old. It's going to take me a while to get over that one. I know I am, but what are you? Ron in Calgary writes in, he says, hey, Rod, just wanted you to know I love my American neighbors. Hockey is hockey, not politics. Yeah, well, I came into this show piss and vinegar, and now I'm sitting here questioning myself, going, maybe there is more than hockey, and it is politics, with the Panthers being at the White House and all the rest of this stuff, and JT being at the game on Saturday night. I need to sit down. But going over to Fort Myers to watch Carter Beck and Indiana State at Florida Gulf Coast. So life is great. Hope it is for you. See you tomorrow, everybody.
Because I thought I was going to see Cyndi Lauper. And then I get there, and she's nowhere to be found.
You just got duped.
I got duped.
Yeah.
Hey, who wants to get duped by Duke?